Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a Monday extravaganza. We're going to do things differently on Monday from now on. We're going to go with an all New York East Coast panel on Mondays. Me, 49er Plus Pod, and Let's Talk 49ers, James and Al, myself, Aaron, 49ers First Takes. We're going to get into yesterday's game because I think it's worth talking about, as pretty much everybody's doing on their social media platforms. It was a victory, yes, but problems remain with the 49ers, and we're going to talk about all those problems. I'm just going to say this. This is a man's podcast, so be ready for me to be a really aggressive person tonight. I hope you can handle it. But how you guys doing a day out after that I don't even know what to call that. A victory by the skin of our teeth. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, I'll tell you what, if this is a man's podcast, I got to start growing some facial hair because I'm behind both of you guys significantly. And I'm Italian. It could happen in a couple of days, but I was just like, I hate the feel of hair on the face. Listen, it was not pretty, but I'll spin it to the positive because I know you got the negative on lockdown, Aaron, that, maybe this game, the Seahawk game, the Cowboy game, they were finding ways to lose those games earlier in the season. Maybe this is an educational moment again, even though they couldn't put Tampa away. They had ample opportunities, special teams, red zone, everything a problem that we've known has been a problem. But maybe these grimy games, and it's been 3 straight now, and I'm sure the next Seahawk game will be grimy as well, is a way of them continuing to learn how to win close, how to close out. And maybe they're practicing for a blowout. Maybe a blowout's coming at some point. But I said on my podcast, man, we are just midgets at a urinal right now. We are always on our toes, and they are not making anything boring. There is no reason to turn a game off early the way the Niners are playing this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the Niners, I predicted a 31-28 game. Niners win, and I was right. 3 points. 3 points, and I knew because our defense isn't what it was. Even though we didn't allow that many yards, I get that, our yards allowed wasn't a lot. But the fact that in that fourth quarter, how many penalties did we have in that drive?
Was that at least 4 in a row? 3 in a row?
4 and 3 in a row.
4, yeah. So that just shows you how many mistakes our team makes every game to make these games interesting. And it's getting old. It's getting real old because we got to figure it out. I don't know if it's something in the locker room or if it's just the effort the guys are putting in. But, I'm usually the positive guy, but I haven't been lately because it's like, what is there to be positive about? I mean, other than Brock Purdy and Kittle and Pearsall, there's nothing really to be positive about on any other player or side of the field.
Well, I'm pretty positive there's no easy wins left. I'm pretty positive that you can't look at the schedule and go, that's a win. That's a win. I mean, they might, there's some games where you're like, they'll probably win that game, but do you feel great going in?
No. I was going to do that with Seattle before I created the stream. I was going to put a topic that says, is Seattle the easiest game left or something? And I was just like, what am I talking about? Of course they're not.
No.
The Niners are going to find a way to screw around in that game too. Listen, I said this off stream with you guys, and I'm going to say this on stream. The 2024 San Francisco 49ers are what they are. They are a 500 team who's good enough to stay in the race for the NFC West. But in the big picture, this is my thoughts. I'm not saying this is Al's or James. I think the Niners are a team that's either going to be good enough just to miss the playoffs or a team that's going to get in there and get eliminated quickly. Why? Because they are what they are. They are a team who blows leads. They are a team with horrible special teams. They are a team who can't score in the red zone. That's the 2024 Niners. And a lot of people are like, they like to put the positive spin, and I get that, and that's your prerogative, and you do whatever you want with your platform. But I just don't look at it like that. Like, sometimes things are what they are. Like Bill Parcells always used to say, and I know Al because he's about my age, you are what your record is. That's what you are. The Niners are a 500 team, and that's what they're going to be this year. I don't expect to have this like super big run where we're going to go on this run and we're just going to start busting everybody's ass like we did in the past. I just don't see it. I don't think the makeup for this team is going to change in the last however many games we have left. We are what we are. We are what our record is. We are a team that makes every game interesting. We make teams that look like they're bottom dwellers when they play everybody else. And when they play us, they look like they actually might have something that resembles an NFL team, but really they don't. But it's because it's really just us and our inefficiencies and our inabilities to close teams out or to not piss all over ourselves and special teams. That's what the 49ers are this year. And when people start realizing that, I still haven't realized it because I still get mad in every game. But I'm starting to kind of turn the corner on why even get pissed off anymore when I know this is what the 49ers are this year. But that's my personal opinion.
I'll take it one. I don't know if it's a step further or if I'm walking it back a step. They have enough talent to play with anybody in the league.
Yes, they do.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to beat anybody in the league and they play down to their opponent or they don't finish. I agree with you. They are what the record says there. They're a slightly above average team right now, 5-4. And if they beat Seattle, they're still a slightly above average team at 6-4. But I think what can get better as the season goes on is offensive efficiency. Hopefully the running game with McCaffrey. This was one of their worst running outputs. And they played McCaffrey like something like 56 out of 62 running snaps, which is a Shanahan special, right? Oh, coming off injury, let's run him into the ground.
We talked about it.
Yeah. It was gonna. I mean, to that degree, is crazy. Crazy. Special teams is what it is. I can't imagine that getting better. I mean, but is Brian Snyder going to coach Moody to actually not miss 3 in a row? Like that's on Moody. That's in his head. That's just kind of what it is. But I think the offensive red zone stuff, now that McCaffrey and Jennings, you have different players in different spots now. Jennings is playing outside because Ayuk's not here. I think that could get better. Finishing drives, getting touchdowns, I think that could get better. Special teams is garbage, and the defense is going to wear down every second half and fourth quarter. They gave up 10 again to Tampa. That is who they are. But it's infuriating because they have the talent to play with anybody, but they have the in-game mismanagement, we'll just blanket phrase, call it that, to let anyone stay in the game and pull out a win.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't see, like, there is positives in this. You're right. I thought Brock Purdy turned it on in the second half and became more of the guy we were used to seeing. I thought he had a lot of flutter balls and a lot of high throws and like just I don't know what it is with Brock. I don't know if it's his mentals. He gets overhyped. He gets rusty. I don't know if he's trigger, what they call it. Trigger happy would be when you force it. So maybe he's gun shy, so to speak. But that was a positive to see him kind of turn it around in the end. There's some individual play going on in this team with Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa and some other players that are having sneaky good seasons so far, as rookies. So there's that. But the overwhelming constant with this team, like you said, is a team that has above average talent in most places, even with all the injuries. And they just find a way to let teams stay around and hang around. And the difference between the great teams and the also rans or team is that the big time teams either find a way to come back in the end and win it, or when they have their foot on someone's neck, they snap it. They snap the neck. They don't ease off a little bit.
They're snapping their foot. Yeah. They're breaking their foot, trying to put the foot on the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also has to do with all the injuries this year. We don't have a lineup that is set this whole year. With Purdy, he's had at least 6 to 8 different lineups for his wide receivers and his running backs. And now that McCaffrey's back, I'm hoping that lineup just is set in stone because, if McCaffrey stays healthy, everybody stays healthy, then we will have a set lineup that these guys that he can throw to, that he's used to. When you got Juwan Jennings out one game, you got Ronnie Bell in the game or some nobody, and what do you think is going to happen, And it is weird how the first quarter, I think Brock is a little gun shy. I agree with you. He throws the ball high, which was something Jimmy G kind of did too. I don't know if it's a Shanahan thing. I think he wants to throw it high so, you can see what the coverage is doing. Maybe they jump for the ball, maybe they don't. It's more of a thing so you don't throw interceptions. But here's the thing about that. Throw the ball to the player. Who cares? Maybe you have some mistakes, maybe you don't. But you can't throw these balls up in 10 feet in the air and think, a guy that's 6 foot is going to catch it, So I think first quarter, Purdy always kind of warms up, and then he gets warmer and warmer and warmer. And then that fourth quarter, I mean, I'm telling you, that's the difference between him and Jimmy G is he's got that clutch in the fourth quarter. Jimmy G didn't have that.
No. I was listening to 95.7 the game. They have a nice little positive spin that they put on this. So I was going to play this to kind of make everybody feel a little bit better who might be watching this on the rewatch that, it's not all gloom and doom, at least not the whole show. But here is Bonta Hill and Joe Shasky doing a little bit of an overview from yesterday's game.
All right. It wasn't pretty for Brock, but damn it, when I needed him to make a throw in the fourth quarter with our season on the line, Brock Purdy made throws. This quarterback that the Niners have right now, Brock Purdy, deserves a ton of credit. This guy's balling, man, and I feel like we got somebody here. Again, fourth quarter, it's hot, it's humid. Kickers missing kicks left and right. Special teams is blooded. Defense is missing tackles. Bicker's got all the time in the world. Bucky Irvin is cooking in the run game. And the quarterback found a way to make the throws when you needed him to make throws in the fourth quarter. I don't know why I feel so good about this win.
One timeout, less than 50 seconds to go in the game. They marched the distance that they needed to go. And not only did they use the timeout in the middle of the field, which was smart, they spiked the ball. Yep. So it was kind of like a chaotic play. And I've been telling you, I kind of want these chaos situations at the end because you learn more about a quarterback during those chaotic moments when things aren't going well. And I believe they blitzed him on 3 of those passes, those pass attempts. The only incompletion was the spike on that drive. I think also one of the big, if the headliner is CMC returns or whatever, the biggest development on offense, it's not that Purdy was awesome because we know he's really good. It's not that Kittle was awesome. We know he's really good. I think Ricky Pearsall's a player.
Oh, well,
so,
you know what?
I think that's the big takeaway. When you lose Brandon Ayuk, most Niner fans are like, even if you think Ayuk is overpaid, you're like, damn, dude, we're out one of the dynamic playmakers in the NFC. And then Ricky Pearsall steps in, and I'm not saying he looked a lot like Ayuk. That's not fair because it's early. But you could see what Kyle saw in him to say, we're taking you in the first round. Getting open on zone coverages, tougher than you think. Catch radius, tough to bring down. Yards after catch. That catch he made, not on the out route, the one on the delay on that final drive. Yeah. That's a tough catch up in the air, slightly behind. I think Ricky Pearsall's a player.
I love Shasky. I freaking love him. I've had him on the channel before, and that's how he always is. He's passionate. Anytime I feel really pissed at this team, I just go watch Bonta and Shasky if the Niners are doing some good stuff, and they kind of bring up my level for an hour or so.
He's right though. Pearsall's balling out, man. I believed in him the minute I saw his college highlights. I mean, he had the catch of the year in college. That kid is something else, And then Tom Brady even said it. I think it was Tom Brady. He's like, look at the speed he has. He got up that field and blew by the cornerback and then blew by the safety. So he's got some wheels.
Yeah, you know what? That clip was great. The person that was speaking first, there was a little bit of I don't know if it was a backhanded compliment or saying, when Brock's not playing great. And I saw this narrative on social media. Anybody that thinks that Brock didn't play a great game yesterday and actually carry that team to victory needs to have their head examined. He's allowed to throw incompletions. Did he start a little bit slow? Sure. The offense as a whole did. But he went 25 of 36. That's 69%, 353, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and he ran it 4 times for 17 yards. He was perfect on the final drive, other than the spike when they got the ball back with 41 seconds. Brock is the reason they won that game. Not that McCaffrey was back. Now, McCaffrey made a big difference because one of Brock's big throws was that lollipop down the right sideline when he let it go before Brock even got past the linebacker on that blitz. And McCaffrey caught it for 30-something yards. Then, of course, the the great play to Kittle that if he was any other quarterback, meaning Purdy, if this was Williams or Jaden Daniels or Love or CJ Stroud or even Bo Nix, this would have been all over SportsCenter because he's buying time, fading left, and throws a dot to Kittle in the back corner of the end zone, which when he let it go, you used the word fluttering before, Aaron. I thought it was just a throwaway. I didn't think that he was going to get it to Kittle right where it needed to be. This game, I think, epitomized why Brock is a top 10 quarterback, maybe even top 8. And folks that are not, there's a lot of issues that I had with this game, for sure. Brock is not one of them. Not at any point in the game did I have an issue with Brock saying, oh, why didn't you make that throw? Or why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? He's allowed to have incompletions, man. If you're throwing at a 69% clip during the course of the game, you're doing something right.
They even said he was having a sneaky good game. Brady made that comment. Yeah. He had all these yards, and they're like, where did that come from? Like he did start a little slow. I think he is a little bit of a slow starter. I think I don't know. Some people start fast and then they tweet, what they call Peter off. He's kind of a Peter upper, he starts slow and then he kind of gets hot. I thought Brock, sometimes I let the talk of the talking heads not influence my thinking, but maybe get me to start noticing flaws and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then I watch the games and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doubting this man? He's got his issues. He's not gifted in, physicality by any stretch of the imagination, but
the best thing is going back to people's in-game tweets while watching games. And I'm not going to, throw stones. I do have an issue of folks that, and if you guys do this, I apologize and you're exempt from what I'm about to say. But folks that like rapidly tweet during a game, almost giving like a play-by-play. It's like, watch the goddamn game. Like you don't have to drive up your phone. You could just watch the game. Maybe if there's a commercial or halftime or whatever you want to check in. And do I doom scroll a little bit and just see what people are saying when there's a commercial? Sure. But I'm like kind of engaged in the game, but seeing what people were tweeting about Brock in the first quarter, second quarter, like literally, because I capture them. Brock's not accurate. Brock's going to be an issue if he plays this way the rest of the year. Shanahan might think about trading 3 first-round picks up for Cam Ward or some of these other quarterbacks. And I'm this theological fans want or demand perfection from every player, every snap, every drive, every quarter. And it's so unnecessary. I mean, it's beyond impossible that give it the whole course of a game. Hey, I mean, what's his face? Moody started out good. After his first field goal, people are probably like, Moody's back. Yeah. Awesome. And then you look like a fool because he misses, 3 of his next 5 and people all want to kill him. Probably us included. Kill him. Harsh word. It didn't mean that. Want him cut or injured or something. But it's okay to watch a game and not tweet about it. And it's okay to have let Brock have his full game sample. Because while CJ Stroud looked pretty good in the first half yesterday against the Lions, he looked awful in the second half. And Jared Goff threw 5 picks, but got the win. Imagine if Brock throws 5 picks and get a win. There's nobody, we don't listen to Lions mentions boards, I don't think. No one's saying crap about Goff. Can you imagine if Brock had a winning performance like that?
Right.
How many people would come down on him? He's lucky. No one's pissing on Stroud. And not that he lost that game for him, but it's always interesting, the double standard.
You are right that there is a lot of hyper tweeting. Yeah. I tweet more about the things that have been issues.
Yeah, you guys are exempt. I didn't mean you guys.
No, that's fine. I don't never.
I don't even tweet. So I know I'm exempt.
I was really. I totally. When I saw, and we can talk about this next. When I saw the situation that happened on the sideline, and I know there's a lot of people out here, like I said off stream with Al, who have never been in a real fight in their entire life, and you can tell just by their responses, soy boy responses about how you just, it wasn't the right thing to do, and I'm sorry. I don't want a guy on my team that has the demeanor of Jake Moody. I'm sorry. Yeah. His body language makes me want to throw up on him. He is pathetic. The way he carries himself, the way he talks in press conferences, he doesn't look anybody in the eye. When he goes onto the field, he already looks defeated. Huh?
He's shifty. He's
like
a shifty guy. Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like people who are weak-minded on my team. I don't like weak-minded athletes. No. You're not going to make it. It's professional football. Nut up, dude. Sack up and go make kicks. That's your only job. You got players on the field all game in the heat, playing through injuries like Kittle, other players that are dinged up, and they put you in a position to do your damn job, and you come up and you not only you miss one, you miss 3 in a row, and you have this just like laissez-faire, like, oh shucks response facially. Yeah. Listen, if I'm Debo, I'm planting one on somebody. Yeah. That's just me. And if you look at some of the responses, like Emmanuel Acho, who ain't done crap in the NFL, Jerry Rice said in the past that would have been the old team back in the day. Punches would have been thrown during one of our games this year. We were
game. Yep.
Jesse Sapolo tweeted it happened in the 80s when we were winning. If it doesn't happen on the camera, it probably happens in the locker room. Somebody might get punched in the side of the head for screwing off during a game while other guys are busting their ass. Yeah. And that just happens. That's what men do when men play sports. Men.
Well, when you got Purdy putting it down, you know, we're getting down the field every damn time, and you get down there and you put everything on your team, and that guy just misses the kick, and he's like, "Uh-oh, I did it again." Of course, that should piss you off, and I agree with you, Aaron. It's like people are so weak now, like to say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." You know, this is football. You should be nice to them. No, it's football. Come on. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And the thing about, I'm going to say one kicker I like, and, don't get big head, Bills fans, but I like Bass, because that guy comes in looking like he's going to kick somebody's ass, and he's got that one eye patch. I like that guy. That is a kicker right there. That's a guy that's going to go blast a kick for you.
You got a kicker that looks like he would throw hands in a fight. Like if he was in a bar fight with you.
He looks like he's an Irish guy that would, drink 5 whiskeys and go fight a bunch of people for no reason, and it's like, we don't have that in a kicker. I mean, at this point, I'm going to go there. I think we should get Carlson back and get rid of Moody, because not just because of this game. It's because you never know what's going to happen with Moody. You've never, as an Niners fan, I've never known what Moody's going to do. If he's going to hit a 60-yarder in the Super Bowl, or if he's going to miss a 40-yarder against the Cowboys. You don't know what's going to happen with this guy. And you can't have a kicker like that. With Vinatieri, all these kickers that are great, you always knew they were going to make it, in the clutch moments. Yep. But not with him.
Nathan Banks, you made a good point. Debo hasn't. I think. Listen, Debo has done his stuff in the past. As much as I get on him for not doing anything this year, I think Debo's washed. Personally, I think he's washed. He'll give you some glimpses of his old self, but man, when you play the way he plays physically over the course of however many years he's been in the league. Mm-hmm. Maybe he just don't got it anymore. Maybe this is the Debo that we're going to see. He doesn't break tackles in the run game. He's not a dynamic separator on pass routes. Like, he's just kind of like a gassed up Percy Harvin, but those guys kind of flash, and then it's kind of over. When you have a guy like, an all-pro receiver through his career, maybe he loses some speed, but he learns how to be a better route runner, or this or that, and his game adapts with his diminishing skills, kind of like Jerry Rice. Maybe this is the best we're going to see of Debo.
And personally. I totally agree. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's a real shot that Debo's not on the roster next year. And I think I don't think he's going to get released. I think he's going to get traded after June 1st. They'll recoup more. They're going to have to ask more for him than what they would get as a compensatory draft pick, which would be a 3rd round pick. So if anybody wants Debo, it would have to be a 3rd plus or a 2nd or something. And that's not a bad thing. He just plays a really physical style. He's never going to duplicate what he did in his contract year. And he'll probably, there's a decent chance that he's probably never going to be a 1,000-yard receiver again, right? Like, it's just, especially the way Shanahan deploys him. Now, listen, what happened on the sideline, it wasn't a good look. It looked bad. Debo looked like he went for Tabor's throat before he pushed his head aside and then took a swipe at Moody. But I'm with you guys. Like, this is not, grammar school football participation trophy type stuff. And for anybody out there that's, getting offended by what Debo did. Forget about being a media talking head. I really don't care what they have to say. But if you're a Niner fan and you have an issue about what Debo did, then you're a hypocrite in a way, because I guarantee throughout the season, you've been pissed off about what's going on special teams. You've been saying fire Brian Schneider. They can't kick return. They can't cover punt returns or kick returns. Moody's missing. And then Moody was out for a couple weeks and they didn't miss a field goal. Someone finally did something to the special teams unit, right? And it wasn't after Moody. If this was after Moody's first miss, a little bit of an overreaction. If it was after Moody's second miss, maybe you understand it a little bit. 3 straight misses, guys. At some point, somebody's got to say something, and I'm glad it was. And people are saying, well, Debo's a captain. He shouldn't act like that. Well, guess what? Not every team captain acts the same. You know, Eli Manning didn't say shit, and his brother and Tom Brady were vocal as hell, and they'd rip your faces off if you weren't playing.
Dan Marino, when he played. Yep. Dan Marino was a red ass, man. He used to scream at people.
And listen, it's no one size fits all. And that, listen, Debo just had enough at that point. You know, the ironic thing is, though, think about it this way, and I'm not defending Moody at all. Moody's 2 field goals that he made before the last one came when the offense stalled out in the red zone twice. So Moody made the short ones to bail the offense out, but he couldn't make, what was it, 49, a 50, and a 44. Not exactly chip shots, but you would hope he could make one of those 3 or maybe 2. Next step is Debo, whoever else, maybe Ayuk, use your crutch if you had, surgery, smack Brian Schneider upside the head and someone shake the shit out of, punt return and kick return units, because those are the next ones that need a stern talking to as well. I'm good with it. It was probably much ado about nothing. They probably sorted out over the.
They have already squashed it.
Yeah.
My issue is you don't know what the conversation was when Debo walked by. Maybe there was some maybe if I'm a player and I walk by and we're in a high pressure game and I see guys smiling at each other or talking as if it's just like whatever.
Yeah.
And our season's on the line and we have to win every game pretty much here on out, especially division wise. And I see what I perceive as somebody not taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, I'm going to freaking chest up to somebody and maybe bop them. Is it the right way to go all the time when you want to get your teammates' attention or when you want to snap people back to reality? Yeah. No, it's horrible. It's a lack of discipline. It shows poor leadership skills. But man, we don't know what he said. From what they said, he told Moody to lock in.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Wisnowski said something, so he got swiped at. Don't protect him. He's a grown man. Don't protect another grown man. He has to be man enough to take constructive criticism when his only job is to kick between the uprights. The rest of the time, he's sitting on the sideline in air conditioning. That's all he's doing the whole game. Heck yeah, I'd be pissed. Especially Debo in this point of his career, but how busted up he is. And he's pretty unproductive. I agree with that. But man, they really overdrafted Moody. It's a bad look. And Wisnowski now he has a back injury.
Yeah.
The Niners need to stop putting draft priority on special teamers. Just don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
If you're going to draft a kicker, draft one in the 7th round. Same with the punter. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Hey, listen, there's the outside possibility that Debo's antics helped Moody. Maybe he shook the nervousness out of him. Maybe him saying something had some sort of a beneficial effect. I know I'm probably reaching here, but the only thing we know for sure is Debo went nuts or said locked in, smacked Pepper, grazed Moody, made an issue of it, and guess what? Moody made his 4th kick. Now, they may not be related at all, but that's the only thing we know for certain. Am I going to say that Debo should do that every single time before Moody kicks a no. But
just start wailing on him for no reason. Yeah, I don't think that would work.
There's an outside possibility that woke Moody up, where it got him out of his own head and maybe pissed at Debo, and he said, "F you, I'm going to make this to shut you up." Again, reaching, but the end result was good field goal. Niners win. Fine.
Yeah, I don't know why we scouted for a 3rd round pick for a kicker. I mean, in the first place, when I saw that, when that happened, 2 years ago, I'm just like, are you kidding me? We could have got anything but a kicker. Offensive lineman, maybe,
Not Tristan Wirfs. I'm thinking of somebody else. Another offensive tackle that was in the draft.
And I can't stand Tabor Pepper. I've never liked that guy because he looks like some hippie they took off a Hate Street and just put in the freaking roster. He's got a man
Taybor
bun.
Pepper, he's just ridiculous.
I feel like he said something to Debo that got under Debo's skin.
He was protected his baby brother, who doesn't have any particular fortitude to stand up for himself because he's a soy boy. He's never been in a fight probably.
Yeah, and he's a waste of a roster spot. I mean, if you look at other teams, their snapper is usually a center or a big guy, or a bigger guy. We got Taybor Pepper, a freaking hippie.
I'm 300 pounds. I'm 290 at 6'3". I can snap.
Yeah, I'd rather you have.
So I might get stuck in that position.
I'd rather have you, Aaron. Shit.
I'd be able to hold my water a little bit. I mean, I'm not as easy to move off my spot as I was when I was a teenager when I weighed like $140 at 6'3". People would just like blow on me and I would tip over. I could hold up. No, I'm just playing. No, can I say something like, Aaron, we got to stretch a lot. Yeah. Old guys like us. Yeah. Stretching is definitely key. I hurt myself a lot with lack of stretching, hamstring, knees, quads, all that stuff.
For a podcast.
Yeah. Like after this podcast, I need to the first thing I have to do is like uncrunch myself.
Yep. Do the whole
and then go and lay on my bed with a heating pad. It literally happens. I just, the topic that I put on the screen before was, can the Niners cut Moody or they get rid of? I wish, I really do. They won't, and I think and I think it's going to come to. I really hate to say this because this is super negative and is super like off-putting for people that want to come on here and like have their faith rewarded and talk about lollipops and cotton candy and stuff. But like, I think special teams is going to be the thing that is going to end our season in some form or fashion. I just have that feeling. It just a big game comes down to a kick or a big game that comes down to, us getting the ball back before, there's a minute 20 left and we got to get the ball back to win the game. And some dipshit freaking runs into his own return man and they end up fumbling the ball and that is squashed before it even happens. Right. Or you have what happened yesterday, which is your only job is to kick field goals in the National Football League. You were drafted to do one job. The rest of the time in 90-degree heat, you're sitting in the air conditioning, looking like somebody who doesn't belong in the NFL with that face. And then you go out there and you miss them, and it's just like, whatever. Oh shucks, look at me. I'm so, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't sit well with me. Will the Niners do anything about it? No, of course not. Why would they?
No.
Well, what happened to letting the ball bounce on the ground? Because I feel like every time we return the kick, we have to catch it. And it's like, why? Just let it bounce away from you. Get the hell away from the ball and let it bounce.
Wasn't doing his job. I don't know.
Maybe it goes to the 10-yard line. So what? At least we still have the ball. These guys are running up to the ball like, oh, I gotta catch it. It's like, no, you don't. Like, I don't know what the special teams coach is doing because he's telling them, okay, go catch the ball no matter what. That's pretty much what he's saying because that's what they're doing every time. And look what happens. We muff a punt. We've muffed a few punts,
No, it's, and I think to both what you just said, I've been preaching, like if they played without a punt returner for the rest of the year, I'd be okay with it. I'm infuriated when Jacob Cowen fields a punt near or inside the 10. That is ridiculous. Yes, the muff punt happened in the Super Bowl, and again, it was Darrell Luter. It went off his foot. He's has to have the awareness as, I don't know if that's a gunner or a blocker for a gunner that, you maybe don't know where your punt returner is, but at some point, if you feel like you're getting close, just get away. And Cowen Cowen shouldn't have gotten away from that punt, maybe because he's got to see, even though he's not looking down and looking up and then looking down to see where his blockers are. But at some point, he's got to have a feel for, all right, everything's too close. Let me just get away from it. But to Aaron's point, will special teams lose them a game? Probably, because there's probably going to be a situation maybe where they're down by 1 or 2 points and maybe Moody misses a field goal. I think that's like the textbook definition of how it'll lose them a game. But their punt return coverage, kick return unit, punt return unit, and obviously kicker and punter, they will, I think it's very fair to say, they will never put them in a position favorably to help them win a game. Now, I say that, and special teams technically won the game for them yesterday because it was Moody who put the last 3 on the board. That's fine. From Three Stooges.
Totally.
That's great.
I'm totally picturing that right now, like the 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's great.
It's not gonna get any better. Like, that's, I think, a unit that I can't imagine how it gets better the last 8 weeks.
It will only change if it ends their season. The Niners are not proactive when it comes to changing things. They're hyper reactive. So instead of getting on top of it and changing it before it spirals into something that ends your season, we'll let it end our season. We'll have people up in arms calling for somebody's job, and then Schneider will get fired, and then they'll bring in some other schmuck who's not any good at his job. That's just what they did. They did it with the training staffs. The Niners are not one of those teams that are like, you know what, I'm going to send a motherfucking message. Kicker gone, special teams guy gone. They'll probably keep Wisnowski or whatever, but like, they're not that type of franchise. They don't do things like that. I hate that about them. I love everything about what John and Kyle have done in this organization, but the one thing that really burns my rear end about them is they're hyper. They're never proactive on any of this stuff, and it comes to bite them in the ass. And I feel like it's going to at some point in the end of the season, and people can kill me for it, and record this, put a receipt on it, come back to me if they make a big playoff run or whatever. But that's just my personal opinion.
If Moody missed that kick and it was 4 straight misses, they wound up losing that game, I think there might have been a conversation in San Francisco about, all right, do we put Moody on IR and say like the foot was the issue? Like make up some sort of lie.
Yeah.
Let him
in the DeBartolo era, he would have been canned. He would have been gone.
But for folks that are saying bring back Anders Carlson, you can, like, if they decide to make a move, which they won't. He's on the Jets practice squad. They can sign him. Matthew Wright's on IR. He's not going to go anywhere. But you could find a kicker off the street that might have comparable accuracy to Moody, but might not have the big leg. So now this is a pick your poison thing, right? If Moody stays healthy and ankle's not an issue, because I think it was his right ankle, his kicking ankle, he'll put the ball into or out of the end zone 80 to 90% of the time. So he's solving your kick return issues. He just becomes a field goal kicking liability at times. So you can't have everything. Like what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's so sad. With a team that puts so much of an investment in other places.
The only way I see them getting rid of Moody is like if we have 3 games where he just misses a bunch of field goals, like the next 2 or 3 games. But maybe, and that's a big maybe. That's a big maybe.
Nobody did tell Kyle what to do.
They're so stuck in their way.
If Grant Cohen, and I can't stand Grant Cohen because I think he's a schmuck. If someone like Grant Cohen or Mayoka, okay, how about this? Even if someone like Matt Mayoka, which a lot of people respect, and I love when he rips on the Niners because he's always been pretty soft on them.
Yeah.
But I like when he goes in on them. Kyle would do his normal smug, like I know better than you response. As much as I love Kyle, he can be such an arrogant prick who it has to be his decision whether something like that happens. Like I said, you said it. If he missed a game winner, they would definitely have been in consideration. Do we cut this guy? You have to. Are you serious? DeBartolo in the late 80s. I mean, what's his name was a pretty bad kicker. Mike Kofer sucked. He was bad. We just got over it because we had such a great offense with Rice, Taylor, Brent Jones, Craig, all these guys that we were able to overcome. I mean, Montana quarterback, of course, we were overcompensating in our offense, whereas this team, maybe not so much. And your kicker is really actually part of the overall offense because he supposedly can make these huge kicks and does this. And he just never shows up. In the DeBartolo era, he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He would have pretty much been like, you're cutting that dude. And guess what? Seifert or Walsh would have been like, hey, guess what? We're going to have to let you go. Good luck in your future endeavors. I mean, that's what it would have happened. But now Kyle and John, because they know better than everybody else. Kidding me? They're not going to make a move during the season.
Yeah, they do the talk. I feel like they have a talk with every player that struggles, and they feel like that solves anything. and it's not going to solve something if their mind is already made up, if they're a weak-minded player, or if they just don't want to play like they used to, or if they're just not a good player. You can't just have a talk with them and be like, oh, you got to do better, man. You got to do better. It's not going to happen, and I think that's what they do, and it's irritating because you gotta have a guy in your organization that tells it like it is. All right, man, you suck. You got to go. Like, you
Kyle's
are
a
not
lot like that. Kyle's a you suck kind of guy, or you've
yeah,
been
but
playing bad.
still, he still has those talks, and it's like, like we saw the talk with Brock Purdy that one game and stuff, and I don't know. It's not like you said, the Eddie D days where you were gone, and some guys just can't make a team, and Moody is that guy.
Kyle's got a quick hook with some people. Like a couple years ago when Ahkello Witherspoon was on the team and he got burned against the Vikings in the playoffs, they pulled him and he was in and out of the lineup. Ambry Thomas at corner has been in and out of the lineup, but they can't, it's like he's like an ex-girlfriend that he just can't give up on, or the defensive coordinator, the secondary people love, and they just can't get rid of him. Dante Johnson at cornerback. He's like the definition of mediocre, but he knows the system, and, we're just going to keep bringing him back. As weird as it is to say, and I'm sure we're going to talk about more than just Moody, although it's a great lightning rod for people's reactions. I was actually, so when Moody was getting up for those big kicks, like I had my toes curled, because like you said, you have minimal confidence that he's going to make it, especially the longer ones. The last one, weirdly, I felt good about, because I thought, okay, this is like your perfect redemption. You're 0 for 3, your last 3. This is your redemption time. And he came through on it. I was actually, in a weird way, more confused. I don't want to say bothered, more confused by the 4th down stiff arm that Baker Mayfield gave Nick Bosa, where Bosa is basically groping his arm as if it was a woman's breast. Like, I don't even know how else to describe it. Going up and down it. And he's just, Mayfield's rolling to the left. And I guess Bosa was okay just to escort him out of bounds, because it looked like all he was doing was pushing his arm that way. And I just thought, dude, you got big arm, bear claws. Grab his arm, grab his forearm, and fall down. Take his ass down or spin him around, something to change the angle of his body.
He wouldn't have been able to drop his hips, though, because they would have called him. They would have called him for that, right?
But you know what, though? Like, you're
right.
I mean,
scoring him out of bounds.
I wondered about that, like, penalty. But, like, is a hip drop tackle, have they defined it as yanking someone down by the arm? Or is it really when you're wrapping up and you
sit down,
you throw your legs out? Like,
I feel like it's that.
I don't know, but I'm
the old Yokozuna Banzai drop where he just kicks his legs out and drops.
Or
the UFC drop.
Jerk his arm out of his socket. Like, that was the most confusing thing to me. And Bosa does not like Mayfield. You're passing up an opportunity to get that guy on the ground and end the game, and he didn't. And I don't know if anything's been addressed in interviews today, that he didn't talk about it yesterday after the game. That was so confusing, because, again, that's a closeout moment, defense, closeout moment for Bosa, and he did nothing with it.
Let's totally get off the Moody subject and let's talk about Bosa.
Yeah.
Bosa, to me, has underperformed his contract since he signed it last year. Fact.
That's fair.
Fact. Bosa is a shell of what he was. Before that contract, that man, almost 20 sacks in a season, game wrecker. The year he got drafted in 19, the interception against the Panthers when we smacked the Panthers around, even in the Super Bowl, he was doing pretty well against the Chiefs until he wasn't at the end in 2019. But, like, man, this pass rush, non-existent. They're non-existent.
One sack.
I tweeted yesterday, I could call the defense for this team. They don't do anything but rush 4 and drop 8. That's all they do the whole game. No, regardless of situation, regardless of the time of game, they never change what they're doing. Once in a while, they'll walk somebody up and blitz. Once in a while. It's this, dude, it's the most infuriating thing. They never get there. Bosa, what are you doing, man? And I'm still sick of this. Oh, he needs help. He needs this. He needs that. He doesn't have to. Listen, dude, there's a lot of good there's a lot of good pass rushers in this league, like Myles Garrett and Watt and a lot of these guys. They do a lot more with less. I'm so sick of hearing that he needs all this help in order to be productive. Freaking dude, you make a lot of money, bro. You should be having multi-sacks game on the regular, like not even kidding. Was he hurt yesterday? Yes. Is he dealing with a hip pointer? Yes. But this has been ongoing. This isn't a yesterday problem. This is a whole season problem.
And he's going against a second freaking left tackle.
School. Are you kidding me?
And you can't get like 2 sacks or 3,
Nothing.
like the old Bosa would have got 2 or 3 sacks that game. But that I can't even. I don't even want to talk about that play because it pissed me off so much. I mean, the fact that
ripped his arm out of his socket.
Tom Brady was just going off. Oh my God, that's the greatest play I've seen like in a while. And I was just like, oh my God, Bosa, you freaking idiot. Like, look what you just did. Like, and okay, maybe how soft it is now. Maybe he was thinking, oh, I don't want to pull his arm out of the socket. Well, then just pull down. And freaking pull his arm down. That's all he had to do.
Afraid to hit him because he was getting close to the sideline.
The strength he has, he could have just pulled him down or at least pushed him harder out of bounds, and then he would have been out. But no, he just grabs onto him, and that's literally the effort we've been talking about this whole season. That is the effort this team has, is holding on for dear life and holding on to the arm. Just holding on for dear life, hoping that you're going to win the game. And that's not the way to play football.
Yeah. No, beautifully said.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. No, beautifully said, James. Like holding on for dear life, like holding on with your rushing for, holding on. It's amazing. I wanted to say this earlier and I got off topic. For as talented as a team that this is, it's amazing that their margin for victory is so slim. Their margin for error is so slim that it ultimately came down to that muffed punt that gifted Tampa Bay 7 points that kept them in it because they dominated yards, time of possession, first down, like everything. And of course, 3 missed field goals, couldn't punch in from the red zone. I will say that the D-line that game where the pass rush gets a little bit of a pass, just the way Tampa Bay was scheming things up, right? We heard Brady say it and the play-by-play guy, Burkhardt, like he was getting the ball out of his hands fast. Right. And when that it was amazing how they had all these quick passes. The Niners were bottling things up. So everything was thrown quick. And that's why Baker threw for like under 120 or whatever it was. But when they were blitzing, it was ill-timed or ill-schemed. So I remember one, it might have been in the first half or early in the second half. They sent a corner or a safety from the defense's right side. Baker rolled left and threw a wide open out to the receiver. So to me, if you're blitzing from the right and you're forcing the receiver to the quarterback to go left, your corner should be up there. You should be challenging that side of the field because you're figuring that you're scheming. That's where the quarterback's going to go. But no, you got cornerbacks playing 12 yards off and just, oh, we'll give you the 7 yards. We don't care. At least when Todd Bowles was dialing it up, that from time to time gave Brock problems. On a 3rd and 7, couple times, right? The last 2 drives before the Niners got the field goal, they would send 6. They would keep their corners at the sticks. Brock gets rid of it quickly. 3-yard gain, tackled, punt. It's okay, Nick Sorensen, to dial some of that stuff. It's okay to be aggressive, knowing that, hey, they need 10 yards. Let's force the issue, play the sticks, but send it. So they can't, but they don't do, they did blitz a couple times. It was just bad, ill-timed, and Sorensen, he's not going to evolve, man, and it's infuriating to watch because Baker's one of those QBs that's on the cusp of he could beat you. He might be good enough to beat you, one of those 10, 12 quarterbacks that can beat that back 7, and he would have if they had their 2 receivers. So the Niners just got lucky.
David McNiner, he made a point that we talked about earlier that they only gained 215 yards, but they were in the game at the end.
Yeah,
because the Niners, like we said, that their margin, they leave such a small margin for error on this team. And like, we talked about it after the Super Bowl. For anybody who watched streams, I'm sure everybody talked about it. Wilkes was the guy to bury after that game, and rightfully so. He called a pretty shoddy game, right?
Blitzer also.
Okay, but then you bring in a guy who's never been a defensive coordinator with a veteran unit like this, because you got a bunch of wussy crybaby players who don't want to have another guy come in and run a different scheme. oh, we want to keep it. That's that's the little bit when you have vetted teams. Is you don't want to, what they say, rock the apple cart or whatever. So you bring in somebody who has the least amount of anything, who's essentially just a dude who's going to call rush 4, drop 8, and occasionally blitz. And that's it. How simple of a defense do you need to run for these guys? Like, why? I don't understand it, man.
I said it before, and I think I said it with you guys, that if Shanahan was just the head coach and not the OC, there's no way he would turn over play calling duties to a rookie offensive coordinator. There's no way. He's too much of a control freak. But Nick Sorensen represented the intersection. It's not a Shanahan puppet. It's not someone that Shanahan can control, but it's someone that knows the scheme, has been in the system, and will run it the way that Kyle and the organization and Lynch and other defensive coaches want to run it. Are you telling me you can't find someone outside that can run the cover 3? That of course you can find somebody, but that person may want to have their own wrinkles or put their own stamp on it. It was the safe hire, and it was the intersection of, I know you and you know our scheme, so let's move forward. And not that Sorensen should be the fall guy in any way. Listen, that defense played a hell of a game, as vanilla as they were. And I would take vanilla bean at times. I would take French vanilla. I would take cookies and cream instead of just straight up vanilla. That's all this guy does. They put up a hell of 215 total yards. Baker threw for 200 alone at Kansas City. And that's a defense that gives the Niners all sorts of problems. So he did something right? But again, he can't do that against Love. He can't do that against Josh Allen. He can't do that against Kyler Murray. He can't do that against Matt Stafford. Can he do it against Geno next week? Yeah. And the Niners could be 6-4, but it could be a very deceiving things. 3-game winning streak, but maybe things aren't as well in Ninerland as we think, because they play well against crap quarterbacks.
That's the thing too. And what really gets me about some people that are, content guys and stuff is like, they over celebrate these victories. Like you just gotta be happy. We won. Just gotta be happy. And I'm the type of guy that I'm looking forward. I'm a forward thinker when it comes to this team. I'm thinking that effort against such and such, we would have lost.
Yep.
That's how I view stuff. I am not one of those people who's blinded by the red and gold, or because I have a platform that pays me that I got to say a bunch of positive bullshit every time I stream to make sure that my sponsors don't leave me. I'm not that guy. I don't have that thing. So I have no filter. When I watch games like this against also ran quarterbacks or mid-level quarterbacks, and then you just brought up Josh Allen. Josh Allen, to me, personally, I like Josh Allen more than I like Lamar Jackson. Why? Because Josh Allen not only could beat you outside the pocket, he can beat you inside the pocket. And the Niners have all sorts of problems with guys that can do stuff like that. They have enough problems with guys that can scramble and move around, but I'm always thinking forward, man. And when I see a victory like this, I'm not overly impressed. I thought the Niners escaped against a quarterback that if it was anybody else, I thought that he would have made them pay, because they weren't getting home at all.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to go there too, it's like, I'm not going to be happy till we win a freaking Super Bowl. I mean, in all reality, because, that's our goal every year, is to win the freaking Super Bowl, and here we go again. The Chiefs are 9-0.
Is anybody anybody else surprised about the Chiefs?
If you were happy being a Niners fan right now, I don't, I get we won. I was happy yesterday, and I was happy earlier today, but I'm not fully happy because we still have not gotten that Super Bowl. I mean, that is what we're not real Niner fans that have been Niner fans their whole life, like us, want more than anything. We want to relive those 80s years. We want to relive that 94 year. I was only 3 when we won our last Super Bowl, so I don't really remember it. So I'm yearning for that damn Super Bowl so bad, because I will fly to San Francisco probably just to hang out with my old buddies and party, not
go
party,
to Market Street and have a parade.
Time.
Oh, hell yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I would go to a parade.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants parades, nothing like it when we won those 3 World Series. So, for the content creators that are like, oh my God, we won. It's like, all right, bro, we won against a 4-6 team, bro. Like, who cares?
I'm an unhappy Niners fan for the simple fact that I feel like they can always be better.
It can be better.
Yeah.
I'm not unhappy because I want us to lose. I think people get really that crap twisted. Like, oh, you want them to lose? No, of course not. I'm just looking at the big picture and I'm thinking, man, we got Buffalo coming. We got Jordan Love coming. Kyler Murray at the end of the season. I mean, they got some dogs that they're about to play. If the defense plays like this with no pass rush, I don't care how good Renardo Green is playing.
Jared Goff will
Diamador
just
Lenore is
back
playing.
just throwing bullets all game if we do that. You know,
I mean, the Niners have. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just like somebody that Sentinel talked about. I just have a lot of calluses from the 30 years, you know? So I'm unmoved by things like I should be when I watch games. I'm like unmoved, like, oh, they won. It's like, yeah, that's okay. It's 3 points. This should have been like, 12 points, maybe like a 12-point victory. If you make all your kicks, that thing. But
I mean, there's those 30 years, there were some dark years in there, right? Before Alex Smith got there, when Alex Smith got, first starting. It's nice since 2019, outside of the COVID year, that they're in the mix, right? You're in the mix, knowing that you're going to have a good season. They've made deep playoff runs. That's part of the hurt too, because they've gotten so close. And if Purdy doesn't get hurt against the Eagles, who knows? Although they would have played the Chiefs and probably lost to them in back-to-back years, for 3 times. So it's great to be in the mix. If you want your team to lose, then if that mentality, then you're probably a Giants or Jets fan, right? Like, they suck, season's over, might as well bring out the tank commander and get, lose as many games as possible for a top overall pick. And living in the Northeast, like we all do, not that I revel in the Giants or Jets misery, but I do enjoy the fact that they have fewer wins with Aaron Rodgers than they did with Zach Wilson last year. And everyone was saying they're just a QB away from being a wild card team or this or that. And boy, the wheels fell off. I mean, you still have to say there are probably 12 to 15 teams or team fan bases that would trade with us in an instant, right? Just to even get in the playoffs and win a playoff game or whatever. So it's hard, man, to get so far every year and to not get the ring and not have that championship. But, the analogy I always use is, you can't dance with the prom queen unless you get a ticket to the dance. And that just starts with winning, getting the playoffs, win your division, and then you don't know what the hell is going to happen, who's going to get injured, who's going to play bad that week or the next week, and you're going to catch fire. Still a whole lot of season to go. Do they look like a Super Bowl team? No. Would I be shocked if they did not win the West? No, because Arizona's got a very favorable schedule, but they're going to be in the mix. This is going to come down to week 18, and I'm okay with that. And you and all 3 of us will be kicking ourselves if they lose the division by a game, Rams, Cardinals, because they didn't take care of business there. Even if it didn't look like the prettiest of years like it did last year. Not every year is going to look like last year, points wise, offense wise, all that good stuff, but at least they are still in the mix. I mean, this could have gone south in a hurry, more south. It's gone south, but more south with all the injuries and everything.
It's weird though, when you have years like this, it's almost, how do I put this? Like, if you have a year where you just don't make the playoffs and you suck, right? You just have a bad year. It's more, you're more comfortable making changes, adjusting a coordinator, gutting some guys off the roster that are a little tenured, that have been here, that are fan favorites, but they just like Debo, they just don't have what it takes anymore. I was like that on Kittle, and boy, was I wrong. I feel like a fool. Kittle's a lifer. He's never going anywhere. Kittle's retiring a 49er.
As long as they don't overpay him. Just don't. I mean, he's worth an extension, but I don't know if you have to make him
get rid of Kyle Juszczyk.
Tight end.
He's
right.
He's going to be like a Tony Gonzalez, Yeah, he's going to be that player that always stays with us. I just love his personality. He never shies away from just having fun and going out there beasting it out. He makes Kittle.
Plays. The thing about you could say how negative I am about being a Niners fan. I'll give credit. Fred Warner plays his ass off.
He does.
Kittle plays his ass off every single game. Those guys look spent when they play after the game. You know why? Because if they had the other 11 on each side of the ball, or the other 10 on each side of the ball in their respective sides who actually put as much effort, it would be a lot easier. I go back to Bosa. I don't what like is it a Bosa family thing? Because I know they like to get paid, right? I mean, his brothers kind of got that laissez-faire personality too, where it's like they're good, they're really good, but they're not like there's levels to. I'm stealing someone's lines I used to YouTube with, but there's levels to this stuff, and I just think like Myles Garrett is an elite pass rusher. He's a game wrecker. I feel like the dude from the Raiders, game wrecker. TJ Watt. He gets hurt all the time. Game wrecker. Bosa, not a game wrecker. Bosa is a hot and cold player. He either does really, 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 really good and he does all this awesome stuff in a game where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that. He intercepted, he jumped over to guard, and then he has games 4, 5, 6 games where he doesn't do anything. Yeah. And it's like, are you playing? I don't know.
The Niners overvalued Leonard Floyd, and that's okay. It happens. Yetur Gross-Matos is hurt, not like he was going to be the answer to the pass rushing stuff. They lucked into Sam Okunwanu. That's fine. I do think when you bring up, and I'm with you. I'm with you. I agree. He's someone that offensive coordinators need to game plan against, but he's not a game wrecker. He was in the MVP year, and everyone's entitled to have a blockbuster year and win an offensive, defensive MVP. All that stuff. But Cleveland and Pittsburgh were great examples that you brought up between Watt and Myles Garrett. Those teams also have two things that the Niners don't have. They have someone on the other side. So when Zadarius Smith was there, that was a nice bookend. Watt's got Highsmith on the other side, someone else that can get double-digit sacks. And they're also defenses that play aggressive. One way you can free up Nick Bosa from being chipped or two people blocking or having a tight end chip, having to beat a tackle, and then maybe a running back's in there to get a hand on him, to slow him down, is to send more than 4. Because if you're sending 5 or 6, then everybody's one-on-one or someone's coming free. You can help your best pass rushers win their matchups more often by overloading the O-line. But I'm not saying doing it every play. That would get a little not boring, but it would be telegraphed. Like the offenses would adjust. But I'd imagine that D-line, especially Bosa with the snaps he plays, how gassed he is, because he's going hard, you would think, right? Every play is going against a tight end and tackle, or just a tackle, getting chipped, something. He's not getting help from his D coordinator.
Right.
Ease the burden by sending other people to maybe give him a free rush. Maybe the tackle crashes inside on one and Bosa gets a free run at it. Sorensen's not doing him or the line any advantages or help by not dialing up more pressure.
Well,
the Niners play. Go ahead. Sorry.
It was interesting. I think it was Tom Brady said this in the third or fourth quarter. He said, it looks like Bosa is just, he's trying and it feels, I forgot exactly what he said, but he said something like, once you keep trying and you get stuck with nothing, no sacks, no pressure, nothing, you kind of just get, stuck right there. You're just like, okay, well, I can't get past this guy. What do I do? Yep. And that is Sorensen's fault, because it's like you're having these 4 guys rush and they're not doing anything. They're going to start thinking, oh, shoot, I'm not doing anything. What do I do? And there's nothing changed about that at all, which is crazy. I think it's crazy that they haven't changed the scheme at all. And it's not even a scheme. A scheme is when you think of ideas
in your fronts and look.
Yeah, when you think of ideas to change up the defense to match what the offense is bringing. That's a scheme. What Sorensen is doing is called I don't even know what it's called. It's called repetition, because that's all we're doing. We're dropping 8 and 4. That's it. All right. Do you know what we're going to do? Oh, you do? Okay, cool. We're going to do that again. Oh, you don't know what we're going to do? Oh, you do. Oh, shit. It's like, come on.
Good quarterbacks eat that cover 3 garbage alive.
Yeah.
Anybody worth a damn and who's an NFL passer, zone defense is the easiest defense, because
go to
the open spot.
Yep,
go to the open spot.
Can you imagine playing Madden? I don't play Madden anymore, but just playing a 4-3 zone or 4-3 man or nickel zone, nickel man all game and not doing anything else? Not sending any, like I'd get housed by my 12-year-old son now, even if I played and tried to mix it up as well as I can. It is so expected of what they're going to do. And they're just banking on saying, I said it before, I think that Sorensen and Kyle think our 11 on defense are better and more talented than your 11 on offense. And we're going to prove it. We're just going to man up on you, not man up, but we're just going to play 11 on 11 and we're going to prove that we're better. And this defense wears down in the second half, wears down in the fourth quarter. It is not, no matter how deep on the line they go or corners or linebackers, it's, different book, different chapter, same book or whatever the saying is. It's going to keep happening. And this is, good enough is not good enough, because good enough sometimes, like the Bosa analogy, James, that you made, you're hanging on, you're holding on, hoping that you're going to get a stop. And in the regular season, you can afford a loss or 2 or 4 or 5. But come playoff time, when it's one and done, you can't be holding on. You got to start dictating terms at some point, and that should be starting in the regular season. Yep. It hasn't started through 9 games. It's probably not going to start game 10.
True. And I wanted to touch a little bit on Christian McCaffrey. He spoke on his return yesterday. I just wanted to play this. Didn't have the biggest as far as big game, as far as statistics go, but he played a hell of a ton of snaps. And this is what he had to say yesterday after the game.
Just try to let everything, I try to feel emotions as they come. I think I don't really plan anything. I have my routine. It's all about my body and just making sure the warm-up's on point. And then, if excitement comes, be excited, but I try to stay even keel. And obviously there's a lot of emotion when you play an NFL football game. So I just try to let those come naturally. And, but definitely when you miss time due to something like that, and nobody wants to be on the field more than me, just to be out there again, to be honest with you, is just you really realize how much of a privilege it is to play football.
I love that guy. I wish we had 11 and 10 more on the offense like him, as far as his mentality. He takes it so seriously. It means playing in the NFL means a ton to that guy. I love it. He's one of my, he's not a Niner by draft, and they didn't draft him, but he's my favorite player on the team, and that's not even close. It's like him, Kittle, and Warner. Those are my guys.
Yep.
All guys that give maximum effort every game.
And he's
all the time, win or loss.
And he's even keel. He said that, he's not a guy that's going to show off and show out, but he's going to show it on the field.
You lose a Super Bowl, man. It's tough to get really overly hyped for a regular season victory. It's like, yay. Okay, next. I wanted to play this one from Richard Sherman earlier, talking about the sideline incident. And you'd be surprised. He didn't really have a problem with it.
And people, have some sympathy for you. You miss one kick. You're like, hey, the rust. Then you miss 2 kicks. You're like, all right now. And then the third kick, you start to have a lot of questions. When Deebo Samuel goes up to him and says, lock in, and apparently that's what he said, you don't defend him from that. You don't get to defend him from accountability from the team. If I give up a touchdown pass and one of my teammates come on like, hey, come on now, lock in now. Somebody's not going to come in and save me. You got to be tough. This is the National Football League. Do your job. And that's what Deebo Samuel was coming to say. This is a high-level football team. This is a team that's been to Super Bowls. There's a standard of play. And to miss 3 field goals after all the work that goes into those drives and to get the ball down the field, you got to make the kicks. This game should not have been this close.
Thank you, Richard. 100%.
Yep.
Richard said it like we were saying earlier, like Al was saying earlier. It shouldn't have been as close as it was. That's the Niners' their own fault. Yeah, and like I said, you can't protect players from scrutiny from other players. Like that was the problem that I had with Wisnowski or not Wisnowski, Tabor. It's like he's like Bosa's the schoolyard bully, and he's his personal paid protector, and he's going to save him from the big bad boogeyman. It's like, really, dude, grow a pair of balls and freaking take the criticism and go be better. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. 100 times out of 100, I would have sided with Deebo on that. I don't care.
Agreed. Yeah, there was no infighting. It's not like, you watch games and the defense is like the whole defense is yelling at each other, or the O-line or D-line or linebacker group on the bench, or during games, you can see that they're getting into heated arguments. And even that's okay. It's a combat sport. People aren't going to be, talking politely to try to get their message across. And I agree with Richard. Like after the third one, come on, man, enough's enough. After the third miss, enough's enough. Something had to be said. And that was, Debo speaking for all of us, not just to Moody, but to the entire special teams unit of get your shit together.
Yeah, because everybody else is doing their job except for your particular piece of the team. Like football is a 3-phase thing, offense, defense, special teams, and you need at least 2 to win you a game on a week-to-week basis. Special teams on a week-to-week basis doesn't do its job, and it has to be a heroic effort by the offense and defense every single week to even give them a chance, because they don't have a return game. They can't stop kickoff returns. They have their head stuck up their ass on tackling returners that, it's just bad all around. And then you have like guys run. How do you run into your return man, dude? I don't understand that.
Personally, I would have punched him, and then I would have did the DK Metcalf, which was ripping the headset off the coach. I'm calling the plays now, bro.
Yeah, it's the guy from the movie with Tom Hanks. I am the captain now. Like you're not calling Sorensen. You're done. You're not calling any more plays for us.
Yep.
I guess the last thing we could talk about, there's a couple things. I don't know how much more time you guys have. Renardo Green, I have it here, is currently the number 2 corner in the National Football League behind Andrew Phillips per PFF, 119 qualified players. How the Niners hit on him like they did is nothing short of amazing. But he got hurt a little bit yesterday. He had a toe issue. So the Niners did make they cut Adrian Amos. I think was it Amos? And they added cornerback Nick McLeod, former Giant, who didn't want to take a pay cut. He is now on the team. Any thoughts on him and then his injury? And no.
Well, I mean, so the Green thing can be an issue if he actually misses time, because if Ward has an extended absence, due to his family situation, then you're down 2 of your top 3 corners against Seattle, and they have 3 good receivers, even though Geno Smith is Geno Smith. So that could be a problem. And who knows, maybe that means Nick Sorensen's going to blitz a little bit, but probably not. I think the Nick McLeod signing, and he's on the practice squad, he could be elevated. So he started 5 of 7 games. He was with the Giants. So starting experience, plays special teams as well. I wonder if this is more of a Darrell Luter, you're on the team, but you're no longer on special teams situation after having, 2 of those fumbles in 10 games going back to the Super Bowl, and or cornerback depth, because if Green and Ward are out, then they only have 4 corners on the active roster, and they would need a 5th. I don't know how quickly McLeod would get up to speed, on the defense, but good to have it. It made Adrian Amos was expendable once Tayshaun Gibson came back. So you really only need one 30-plus-year-old safety on your practice squad. So it made sense. But I'm hoping this isn't an injury thing for Green, because he's been balling out.
Yeah. Wisnowski has a back issue, and Kittle has a aggravated hamstring. So those are definitely some things to look at. Bosa was asked after the game yesterday about his issue, and he says he's going to definitely have to take a look at it this week with his hip pointer.
More injuries. What's surprising, there's nothing surprising about that.
The NFL in general has been pretty injury ridden this year. So it's not just the 49ers. I think the Niners still have enough players, even when they have injuries, to win games. I don't really sympathize, or I don't really feel bad for the Niners. They have some pretty good depth. So most teams would die for the depth that they have. And the Niners, they brought it upon themselves that they have to make every game, must win. So it's their own fault. But
Bosa got hurt during the bye.
Yeah,
he was fine going into the bye. I mean, you practice during the bye. It's not like it's the most ridiculous.
He ran into somebody apparently.
Was that?
Somebody ran into him and gave him a hip pointer.
I mean, listen, it's accidental. It happens. But only the Niners would have one of their star players get hurt on a bye. I mean, it's like a Jets thing. I mean, come on.
It is. Yep. That's pretty much it, guys. Pretty fired up show. I thought we did reasonably well, and we didn't really go too big into statistics and breaking down PFF scores and grades and stuff. But I think it's needless to say, as 49er fans, we're happy we won yesterday. But going forward, the effort and the what do you call the the focus on the details is what they have to get better at if they want to win long term and have that in turn turn into a playoff run. Niners just got to win one game at a time. It sounds like super cliche, but that is really the truth. So
we can do better. We can do better. That's it. We can.
You know what? And I hope, that this is probably me reaching again or reading between the lines. Hopefully McCaffrey Jennings opens up the offense, in opponent's territory, inside the 20. But I hope after this game, there's no feeling of pressure or pressing on the offense or Shanahan's play calling to force the ball into the end zone because you have Moody on the roster. And that lack of confidence in kicking is going to potentially put more pressure on an offensive unit that, with all the injuries anyway, they're still a number 2 ranked offense in the NFL. They're missing all these players. And yes, they have red zone issues. And yes, the number 2 ranking is based on yards and not points and all that stuff. They're moving the ball up and down the field. They just stall out when they need 7 instead of 3. And again, Seattle's a team where you stall out, you kick some field goals, you get a pick or 2 from Geno, that they could still win this game by 7, 9, 10 points. But then they're going to be punching above their weight at Green Bay and at Buffalo.
Great analogy.
So this is another glorified practice tune-up game that it's not, it may get easier after some games. I mean, you have Chicago, Miami's beating the Rams. Thank you right now. Hopefully that maintains, but they're a 2-6 team. Maybe that's not as difficult as a game in December as we thought it was going to be. But yeah, to Aaron, to your point that you let off with, or if it was before the show, Arizona's not going away. I don't think Arizona's going to win out, but if Arizona is a 10 or 11 win team, that means the Niners have to get to 10 or 11 also, and definitely beat them last week of the season, beat the Seahawks, beat the Rams, beat other NFC teams for all those tiebreakers. So the Niners have no one to blame but themselves. Yeah, Arizona and the Rams came back. Good for them. They tipped the cap a little bit, but the Niners had those games, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to have that mentality every week, and they're going to have to steal some victories. They're going to have to go to Buffalo or Green Bay and get one of those. They're going to have to.
Yep.
Well, better be that Buffalo one because I want to see it.
Yeah, he'll be there. I mean, it's an hour and 10 minutes away from my house, but all right, everyone. This is kind of be the new kind of Monday format. So hopefully everybody liked it. We'll be back next Monday. I would assume like 8:30, 9 p.m., something around there. We're all Northeast New York, New Jersey guys. So it just made sense to just kind of put it all together. I will see you guys tomorrow with Bash of 49er Minded at 10 p.m. Al, what do you got going on this week?
I did my podcast earlier today. That was just the recap show. Basically, we talked about everything that we talked about here. So if anyone's listening, you don't worry about my show. And then Thursday, I'm going to do the look ahead to Seattle, which is, again, you don't want to get too happy, but feels like a win. But, this is a Niner team, can drop a game at any given time. So got a little bit of time to think about that before we roll into Sunday.
Definitely. And James has got a new channel. He's trying to grow. It's in its infant stages. Let's talk 49ers. I'm going to start doing a little bit of multi-streaming probably next week with these guys. They'll allow them to stream our stream on their channels as well. So don't forget to give them a like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Everybody have a great rest of your Monday night. If you're on the East Coast, you got a couple more hours before bedtime. Here on the East Coast, it's pretty freaking late. Yes. Everybody take care.
Go Finn.
Stay safe and healthy, and go Niners.
Happy Veterans Day.
Actually, go Dolphins right now, right?